But what if I told you, and what if these new awarenesses that you're going to gain today would help you to understand that it's actually just your nervous system doing a little too well? You're just overshooting the mark. And actually, this will enable you to do less in order to feel better about how you're showing up. Hello, this is the May Be Mindful podcast, and I am your host, Hannah Mae. I'm a mother of 6, spiritual growth facilitator, and certified hypnotist. This podcast is about inspiring hope, expanding awareness and consciousness in order to revolutionize the way we live and experience our lives. You can expect thought-provoking episodes, each week spanning a range of topics, drawing from both my own journey of transformation and healing and working with others. I hope you find this podcast to be informative, refreshing, illuminating, and instrumental in your own soul's evolution and growth. Let's jump right in. Hello, family. Welcome back to the May Be Mindful podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Mae. And today I'm so excited because I have a really amazing guest here with us, Dr. Sherry Papa. She's a holistic family chiropractor and acupuncturist. She does other cool things. And she sees really interesting and amazing things in her office every day, cumulatively over the last 25 years. And she brings a really unique lens to the conversations that we already have because, of course, she's working with the body. So she's seeing how these things that we talk about show up in the body and how we can change those. You're going to want to save this episode. You're going to want to download it to refresh the aha moments that you're going to have around how you see your role as a mother, parent, caregiver. So between Sherry and I, we have 9 children, I think, if my math is correct. And we have these kind of conversations often because, of course, as a mom, you want to show up, you want to be your best, you want to be effective, you want to be all the things. And oftentimes there's this thread of guilt that can sort of come in, and that feeling of not showing up as your best self, not showing up as enough, or feeling like you could have done it better. But what if I told you, and what if these new awarenesses that you're going to gain today would help you to understand that it's actually just your nervous system doing a little too well? You're just overshooting the mark. And actually, this will enable you to do less in order to feel better about how you're showing up. So, without further ado, here she is. Hi, Sherry. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to bring you into this conversation because I learn things from you all the time. So tell me, because I know you see families, you see moms, you see dads, you see kids day in, day out, but tell me what you're noticing even before they tell you what's wrong, and why is it so important to treat mom?
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for having me here. We've been talking about this conversation for a long time. And one of the guiding lights that you hit on for me with my practice and what I do is working with families. And so often I have moms bring their kiddos in for various things, and we can talk more about that later. But I really always want mom to be under my care and be served first. And it's really because if you can help the moms, then the whole family is going to be healthier. The state of a mom's nervous system is going to be reflected and informed. It's going to inform the growing nervous system of their children. So I think, we're kind of like pulling these levers of I'm going to serve this child. I want my child to be whole. I want my child to be addressed. But I think if we can just take the step back and address our own nervous systems, we're going to get there quicker, more directly. But, so often when I put my hands on people, when I start working on people, people are like, well, how did you know I hurt there? I didn't tell you I hurt there. And it's because I can see it as soon as people walk in my office. It's like their jaw is clenched, their breath is shallow. I can see their shoulders up around their ears. All of that, like all of the stress, all of those things are written in the patterns of how they inhabit their body.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's like the load of not just motherhood and the neurological load and the managerial role,
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
but then you're throwing on all these environmental stressors and then the internal stressors, of course, too, right?
Yeah, all of the internal stressors, all of the external stressors, I mean, we have a lot coming at us in any given day. But the thing is that when I see that, when I see a mom walk in like that, and she's bringing her kids, and she's so hyper vigilant and stressed about what's going on with her kid, and I can see it reflected in her physiology and the posture that she's taking in my office, I get excited because I'm like, okay, there's something tangible. There's something here that we can work on. And it's not about like trying harder or another thing on the to-do list or another piece of information to consume. I mean, I feel like, we have all of this information coming at us on social media, which is really cool because I think it democratizes healthcare in a way that we're so much more savvy as far as consumers of healthcare. And so we ask better questions, we dig deeper. I think we push our doctors to dig deeper and do better, which is really exciting. But I think on the flip side of that, it comes with like, oh, there's so much more that I have to do. I'm looking for a diagnosis
Mm.
because we're so much more aware. We have all grown up in kind of this Western allopathic model. We're driven to look for this named condition, like what's that big scary thing that's wrong with me or wrong with my kid for that matter. But I think that if we can just take a step back from the poking and the prodding and the looking for the big scary thing. I think that there's a simpler answer, really. Can we just get connected? Can we take down our guard enough and breathe into it? So I love that opportunity when I see it happening.
So, are you saying when you see a mom get on your table, that do you see an immediate turnaround and an impact with how the kids reflect mom's nervous system after she gets off the table all floaty with you?
Yeah, what I see all the time, and my office is set up so that whole families can come in together. So, it's really, my office is kind of like a living room. There's toys and it's very warm and inviting because I want families to be able to come together and be cared for together. But I see it immediately as soon as mom gets off the table in how she's parenting. And that's not to blame. It's just there's more capacity there. And really what I see is instead of meeting a moment with rigidity and kind of their whole posture braced into fight or flight, that mom has taken a moment. I've addressed the nervous system. We've done fascial work. We've done breath work. We've done chiropractic adjustments. They've had time to get out of fight or flight, get into the parasympathetic nervous system, kind of turn down that treble, that like screeching sound that's kind of going on, that's coming at us at any given moment. And they're able to meet their child differently. It is really pretty instantaneous.
Mm.
And here's the thing, when they are able to meet their child differently, the child immediately responds differently. We have mirror neurons, so your child is mirroring what you're reflecting. So if you're coming at them in fight or flight, if you're coming at them from a place of holding on, of being in that what I call sympathetic dominance, where you have no ability to come down into this sort of rest, digest, tend to care for, then that is being reflected back to you and your children. And it looks like really dysregulated behavior, right? And I think that you and I have had this conversation so much in our own parenting journeys.
Yeah, well, we know what that looks like to be dysregulated as moms. It's
Yeah.
Motherhood is like one of the most dysregulating jobs alive, I think, or in
Yeah.
existence. So,
Yeah.
and I'm curious I mean, for me, really, it sounds like an invitation. And the only way to really do that is for mom to prioritize self-care. But, you're talking about the state of her nervous system informing her kid's nervous system. And I'm curious, I'd love to hear more about what you see in like with the kids that are coming to see you right now and like how that's showing up.
So, I mean, I think first of all, it's really fascinating. I've been taking care of families for over 20 years. Here's what I'm seeing. I more and more now than ever, parents are bringing their kids in, which is really exciting, right? They're looking for deeper answers.
Mm.
And that gives me a lot of hope. But really, since COVID, I've seen really odd things walk through my door, things that in the whole 20 years of practicing prior to COVID, I hadn't really seen. So like 7-year-olds with autoimmune stuff and chronic fatigue and gut stuff and odd post-viral reactions. And so while I'm seeing really interesting different things as far as what's wrong with their health, when I assess the kids, when they're on my table, I can feel it. Like their fascia is tight, like somebody who's 40 years old. Their nervous systems are stuck in fight or flight. And it's like it's not their energy pattern, but it is reflecting the pattern of the nervous system of their parents, of those that are around them. And this is again coming back to that mirror neuron idea where we are reading and picking up cues from our parents, and this is a survival mechanism. And so this isn't a bad thing, it's a good thing. This is how we learn how to self-regulate when we're in our first formative years of our life, right? We're looking to our caregivers to teach our nervous system how do we self-regulate. So this really isn't about blame for parents, it's about power, because once you understand what's happening, then you have an opportunity or like a real invitation to change not only your own health, but your children's health.
Mm. Well, exactly. And it is really empowering because it also really simplifies our role, actually. And you're talking about like how overextended we are as mothers already and needing to want to like find the solution, diagnose this and that. And what if it's as simple as like self-prioritizing? I think it's fascinating, this idea what you're witnessing with this 40-year-old fascia. I mean, it's really sad to me. You're right. There's no blame in it. It's not like, oh, I'm not doing a good enough job, right? Because
No.
this is
Yeah.
just how we're designed.
And I don't want the conversation to come off as another, like, well, mom, you're not doing well enough. You have to do another thing, right? I think it's really empowering information because if we can think of our children's health, if we can think of our own nervous system, of the health of mom, the health of dad, the health of a whole family unit as the ecosystem, in which the child's health is growing, right? They're not separate. Then we're able to take our power back. And so it's less of looking for the right doctor or supplement or therapy that'll magically fix things. It's like this understanding that you're part of this interconnected web, and you have agency. You can actually do something.
Mm.
And because kids, they want to regulate, they're resilient. And so if you haven't been here to up to this point and you're listening to it as a parent, it's not like, well, I really screwed up there and there's nothing I can do. Our kids are constantly receiving regulation signals for us, so it's an opportunity and an invitation really to take a step back and care for yourself, because that's what it's about, right? Just creating the space for you. And so instead of begging permission, like, oh, I don't know if I should, I don't know if I could, I don't know if I have enough time for that. Really,
Becomes
this
a
this is the work.
necessity. It's like
Yeah,
there, it's not even a question. I
it's
think,
not a question.
yeah, and I think a lot of it just comes down to our own conditioning as well, because when our circuits start firing for duty, right, eventually our needs go offline and it's almost like we become a machine versus
Right.
a human in it.
Yeah.
It's like we started this family project with joy, with love, with excitement in mind.
Right.
And so there's no reason why we can't pull that thread through, but it does require us to wake up to ourselves. And I've always said that my kids are my greatest teachers, and they invite me to be a better human, and they invite me to self-care. And I think the other thing that I've noticed is just personally with my own kids, never mind what I see with families or kids that I've worked with in my hypnosis practice, but if I self-care, my kids see how that benefits me and how that benefits them. So now they're wired to the point where if I have an opportunity to do something for myself, they want me to do it. They say, Mom,
Yep.
definitely should go do that for yourself. I don't know. Sometimes maybe they just want me to get out of the house so they can like play video games. But
Maybe.
but that's a thing too. But I think it really starts to create a new energy in your family.
I think it's, I mean, and I know, like, even for me in my household, my husband and kids, like, they can feel it. And they'll same. They look at me like, did you want to go for a hike? Do you want to go to the gym?
You're dictating the environment. And so it is a big
Right.
responsibility, but I also think it's actually so much simpler.
And I feel like, I mean, we're living, God didn't intend us to live our lives inside a building under fluorescent light, sitting all day, exposed, then like go to bed and looking at our phone and having information come at us all day long in this sort of awful, terrible news cycle that's constantly coming at us. And so I think really giving yourself permission to say, I need to care for myself in a radical way. And by radical, it's not even like, you know, leave the reservation and go on a 14-day European vacation. It's really just finding those moments where you walk outside and sit in the sun and put your feet in the grass.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, daily grounding.
Time with your friends.
Yeah, centering practices. I mean, honestly, sometimes that can happen in 5 minutes in a bathroom if you just lock the door. You know what I mean? And that might
Right.
be the only thing that's available, but I think it's really important to do that in this idea of reclaiming time because the more dysregulated we get, the more our perception of time is altered. And one of the things that I personally hear from a lot of moms is there's no time. I have no time. But that's a big indicator of dysregulation because that's based on perception. So, another thing is, I work with people's belief systems as a hypnotist and these limiting ideas, beliefs. And as parents, sometimes we have these limitations on what is possible. And really, it could just be as simple as a reframe and some creativity involved. It might not look the way we think it's gonna. It might not be able to be the 2 week vacation, like you said. But I witness personally how symptoms show up in the body with my clients. And I don't work specifically with pain, but oftentimes a client will come to me and we'll get relief, we'll shift the belief, and they'll say to me, the pain that I came in with that I didn't even know they had, that they were just tolerating, it's gone. It's that happens all the time. And I'm like, oh, well, there you go. And so that really speaks to this, like these interior stressors that we can minimize and cut down on by, boundaries for ourselves, like what we're consuming, how we build in self-care, and really how simple that can be. But I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit about how you're seeing this stuff show up in the body and how much of that is emotionally driven.
I think this is such a fascinating conversation, and it's why I've had people that are in my office week after week after week, and you, I'm doing the fascia work, I'm doing acupuncture, I'm giving them adjustments. We're working on what they're eating, like physically putting in their body with food and supplements. And if nothing shifts, then we're left with what are your beliefs? What is the mental emotional, what is that that's left? And so I think while you can't think or talk yourself out of a physiological stress response, I also can't resolve what is living in your body that's attached to an emotional or spiritual belief that arrived into your system probably in childhood, right? Probably, and I know you talk about this a lot. Over the years, I can almost tell just by looking at somebody is when they fill out their symptom questionnaire. And for the people that have these sort of complex histories of chronic pain, of chronic dysregulation, and they have all kinds of autoimmune diseases and chronic fatigue, I can pick out somebody who's had childhood trauma that has showed up, like in just reading their form, even before they walk in the door, because all of that emotional and spiritual, and all of those belief systems that are programmed into us or implanted into us when we're children. And you talk about this much more eloquently than I do, but they show up, they're in our body, and it causes us to tighten like fascia gets tightened and we sort of clamp down and go into protect mode. And a lot of times, even in posture, people are like, well, what do I do to address my posture? Sometimes it's nothing physical. It's the emotional belief systems.
Hmm. Okay, so you keep talking about fascia, and I'm wondering if you can break that down for us, Dr. Sherry, because this is a relatively new concept for us, right? Our understanding of the role of fascia in the body.
Yeah, I love this topic. This is such a cool topic for me. And I've had people actually on my table ask me, "Hey, can you give me a referral to somebody who does fascia work?"
You're
And
like, that's what
I
I'm doing
that's
right now.
we're doing this right now.
Yeah.
That's what is happening. And so I think that there's a little mystery around it, and people are really becoming familiar with this term. But
Mm,
fascia is really this collagen layer that it just surrounds all of our cells and then entire muscles, and it connects everything. But when you experience stress or trauma, it contracts around, the trauma, and it kind of wraps up whatever emotion or memory is stored in that moment, kind of wraps it up in that area. And it's really protective. It's keeping you safe. Um,
mm,
when I was in grad school and we were doing cadaver lab, we got the bodies and they were stored in these kind of big metal bins. And inside the metal bin, as we were dissecting, there was a giant like yard trash bag, like a black trash bag. And and that trash bag was there because anything that got dissected away, we put in the bag so that it stayed with the body. And I remember when we got to this, the fascial layers, which really looks like this beautiful, like
mm,
gossamer, like thin, reflective tissue.
mm,
My teacher at the time, he I was like, well, what do we do? Like, what is this layer? And he's like, oh, that's trash. Just throw it away. I mean,
mm,
that was the fascia,
mm,
right? So that was back in the 90s. It was like, oh, that's trash.
mm,
But now we know it's really this quantum communication highway, right? It's these structures that are really like liquid quartz crystals. They're transmitting information with light and
mm,
sound and electricity. It's not just like a physical structure holding things together. It's this responsive information system. So with chronic stress, what's happening within that information system, you just the lack of community and the sitting all day and the stressful phone call with your boss and your 47 text message buttons coming in all day, all of that gets stored in the fascia. It's changing, like literally changing your structure. So when I say, you know there's an emotional component to your posture, it is within that fascia. That's where that emotional component is happening.
Is that because this system, it's communicating with your environment, right? With your thoughts, like your inner environment, your thoughts, external, everything that's coming in, and it generates these electrical charges, right?
Yep.
But is that where the frequency of these emotions is being held in that system?
Yeah, so the frequency of the emotions. Also, there was a scientist, Candace Pert, who back in the early 2000s, well, before that, she was the one who discovered the opiate receptor, our pain receptors, but she talks about emotions as neuropeptides, and these chemicals kind of wash over the fascia. And so we have chemical signals, we have electrical signals and vibrations. So all of this is happening within the fascial system.
Hmm. And this probably impacts your electromagnetic field, right? Depending on what state of being you're in, how aligned you are. If it's like a positive or something negative in your body that you're feeling.
Right, right. And you and I have talked a lot about heart-brain coherence. So this kind of gets back to even that, where it's like we're actually electromagnetically radiating all of this stuff that's happening in our body. I mean, we've all had that experience where you walk in and you're like, ooh, it just doesn't feel comfortable to be in a room with that person. Like, I don't know why, but it's just not comfortable. I mean, we're picking up what their body is radiating electrically.
So like there's something up with their fascia.
Yeah,
They need to
right.
go address
And
their
this is
fascia.
where, right. And this is where it's like body work becomes essential. It's like tilling soil. You
Mm,
can't plant seeds into hard, compact soil, right? Nothing's going to grow. And you can have the best seeds in the world and fertilizer, and without preparing the ground, it's not going to take root. So that's the work that I do, right? I'm like churning it up. I'm tilling things up with fascia work and craniosacral care and acupuncture, and we're creating the space. We're getting that compacted tissue. We're opening it up, but then you've got to plant the seeds, right? And I think your work too, you're tilling, you're pulling out like all of those like bad roots, those bad things that are like deep in the soil when when you're doing hypnosis work with people, you're pulling that stuff out, but we're tilling the soil essentially for somebody to come in and plant the seeds, the breath work and the time with their friends and the things that they do to connect, prayer, their spiritual practice. Those are the seeds that you plant, but you've got to get the soil ready.
So, movement and dance, for example, can impact this
Yeah.
liquid crystal structure in your body is holding on to an energy that doesn't serve and it's showing up in a dysregulating way. Is this where movement is a really helpful tool as well?
Right. And this is right. So dance and going outside, taking like all of these things, especially if you're doing it, if you're in a practice that brings joy to you, that brings levity, right? And you're accessing play,
Mm.
you're going back and accessing that childlike state where you kind of drop out of executive function and into just experiencing, being in the flow of the moment. But we're able to kind of unkink and unwind fascia. Another way I kind of think about it is if you think about a sheet of saran wrap in your kitchen, and if you accidentally like touch those two ends of saran wrap together and it's like a kinked ball, it's like you have to really kind of just get you have to open up that space and let it unwind so that the communication can happen.
And I guess like daily maintenance with something like that, it's easier to get a kink out, quicker
Yeah,
rather than letting it compound and build,
right, exactly.
getting all twisted up.
I think, and this is like this is the power, like the transformative power of kind of stacking these things that bring joy, that like the movement and body work and prayer. And as you stack them and bring them into your life, especially if it doesn't feel like another check on a to-do list, especially if you can incorporate it in that state of joy. This is where we transform our life, where we get to set down duty and just show up in the present moment joyfully.
It also, I think, transforms duty as well.
Right.
When we perceive duty as something as hard or overwhelming or that we loathe or that we don't want to do or feels like too heavy, it is too heavy if we're going into it in that state. But when we go into something in a childlike way, like you're talking about, it lightens the load automatically because we're carrying it with levity. We're elevated. I think in that we really get to remember who we are at our core and that playfulness that you're talking about accessing.
I mean, I feel like when I just remember in the first couple years of motherhood, taking my oldest to the playground and just getting to re-experience the joy of being on a playground. Like I just remember, and this is before like kid two, kid three, and when things got very busy and it felt then like at some point it starts to feel like duty
Like,
again.
no, not a swing. Yeah.
I just remember those early moments of like my first child and being like, wow, I'm re-experiencing these childhood joys, like the magic of going to an amusement park, which, like at this point with my three children, I'm like, please never make me have to go to Disneyland again. But
There's
early
too
on,
there's too many biofields at amusement parks
there's
to
so
have a good
much
time.
stuff happening there. But, just getting back to that playful state and remembering yourself and getting back into that flow where you're allowing space for regulation and becoming more coherent between heart and brain. And that naturally then becomes available for your children. It's like you're not broadcasting this kind of stress, radio broadcast of just stress and duty. And your kids get to feel into that. And their behavior, their health, what shows up for them in their body aligns with yours when you're in that flow. that's the opportunity, I think.
Hmm. Yeah. It really does go back to, like, as parents, we want to show up for our kids. We want to do the best. We want to help them. Sometimes we feel like we need to fix them or change them, but actually, more often than not, I think it really comes
Right.
back to our own work, always, and then we show up differently. Speaking of showing up differently in self-care, I want to take this moment to announce our Reclaiming Joy micro retreat. It's a women's retreat. It's going to be in Tennessee, so it's for Tennessee locals. Although I will say we have a few out of town guests coming from out of state that are so excited about this. So that's really awesome. We have a couple tickets left. If we're sold out by the time you hear this, we're going to pre-register. You can get on the wait list, so you can go ahead. We're going to attach the links below, but it is going to be Sherry and I hosting. It's going to be a fusion of modalities, everything from acupuncture to optional body work to hypnosis to guided meditation, visualization, dance, mindful movement as meditation, some play, some fun. I'm going to teach hoop dance because I love hoop dance, and it's such an awesome way to access creativity and flow, and it's always a laugh, and it's also a really amazing skill and a cool party trick once you got that under your belt.
I
And
cannot wait. I honestly can't wait for that.
it's
So,
really the
so
day
much
that
fun.
we want to go to as moms.
That's right.
It's why we're so
I
excited to be there.
I mean, when women get together, and women in particular in our nervous systems, this sort of tend and befriend phenomenon where we create oxytocin
Mhm.
when we're in community with other women. And so you're right, we're going to get everything we need to.
I mean, the coherence that happens on a group level when there's a shift is so powerful. I mean, one-on-one work is really powerful in its own way because you're targeting that
Yeah.
specific issue. But there is something that happens like in group, and even when you witness somebody else have a breakthrough or work through something, it can be transformative for yourself and how you relate it to yourself. I've witnessed and I've been in groups where, and personally as well, where I have witnessed somebody else resolving something and having a shift and a breakthrough. And I have had my own personal powerful shift or breakthrough. And that's not uncommon, you know.
Yeah, you get to ride that wave with them.
You're living in the energy of that,
Yeah.
and it's really elevating. So feel free to check that out. And we're really pumped about that. So here is to living in a higher frequency, to showing up for ourselves in a radical way, which is really just like Sherry explained, really very simple. Let us know if you have any questions. Sherry, how can people find you if they want to work with you?
Yeah, so for people who want to work with me, my website is radiantwellnesstn.com. So TN like Tennessee. And there's a schedule link or a contact me link. You can find me there.
On Instagram?
On Instagram, I'm at Dr. Sherry Papa.
And do you work with people virtually for anything?
I do work with people virtually for functional health coaching. So that looks like, doing blood work or Dutch testing or those kinds of things. So I do have a virtual component, and you can schedule that from my website as well.
Sherry is, I'm not joking when I say she's an encyclopedia, you guys. She has like the supplemental solution for everything. I've never had her say, I don't know, so far. So she's an
Mm.
amazing resource if you guys are looking for something like that. Anyways, thank you so much for being here, Sherry, and I hope you guys have a great week. Thank you for tuning in to the May Be Mindful podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us grow and improve. For more information, resources, and exclusive content, visit our website at maybemindful.com or go ahead and follow us over on Instagram at maybemindful. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please give me a follow, screenshot the episode, and go ahead and tag me until next week when I bring you another thought-provoking and inspiring topic. Until then,